find any way. Yeah, no. Greg's one of you guys.
No, I don't know. It's not.
Hi, this is the Mason Classical Board calling for Sean Arnold. David. Morning, Sean. It's the Mason Classical Board, and I'm going to switch your okay?
I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you have a comment for the agenda, whether it's a public comment or an agenda item, there are comment cards in the back of the room. Please turn those in up here. We, at this point, have only two. Are there any others? All right, the first item up is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes, board members? Oh, yes, thank you. We are in transition. I know, at the last board meeting, we said through consensus that Mr. Whitehead would be acting as interim, with the support of our academic deans. Mr. Holt is still under contract until August 11th, but we are going through a transition time. Also, just real quick, the principal job has been posted, but at the meeting, we do have to appoint a principal designee, so does anyone, do you move to approve?
I move to appoint Mr. Whitehead as designate for principal Paul Robinson.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of Mr. Whitehead being the principal designee, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes, board members?
I'd like to add one item.
I would like to add one item, and that is a letter to Governor DeSantis.
I'll add this to new business. Okay. Ms. Miller, any additions? I would also like to add, Mr. Arnold asked me to add the ratification of mediation to the agenda. So I'm going to add that under unfinished business. Mediation. Also, I do need to add new business. I'll add it to unfinished. We do need to address funding the attorneys in the, funding the attorneys. So I'm going to add that. Okay. Any other changes, board members? Is there a motion to approve?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Selector.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Sean Arnold. I did want to potentially add an issue because of the uncertainty of what Thursday's, as we understand Thursday's meeting is, would be a discussion, potential authorization for legal action by the governing board in advance, so that council for the board can move quickly after the meeting on Thursday.
Okay. We've added that to, we'll add that under unfinished business as everything with the legal issues are under that, in unfinished business. Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you.
with changes?
I make a motion to approve agenda with changes.
All right. All those in favor of the agenda with changes, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. Consent agenda includes the meeting minutes from July 2nd, 2019. Are there any changes to those minutes?
I do not have any changes.
Motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the board meeting minutes from 7/8/2019.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. All right, we are going to community comments. We have Paul Rover, please.
Okay, all right. Now, I didn't really know what this board meeting was gonna be, but this is on the topic of, the request for Ms. Lichter's resignation. I'd first like to say that this is a very great school. The education is outstanding, and I've learned quite a bit in just a single year. And I think I've learned enough to be able to say this. During our time at Mason, we learned an important lesson about pride. During our reading of the Oedipus cycle, we had learned that pride is the greatest crime of man, when one can't just admit that they need to step down and that they've done something wrong. So, for the sake of keeping this great school here, step down. That's all.
Thank you. All right, Heidi Jenkins, please.
Good morning, my name is Heidi Jenkins. I have a rising. Hello? Good morning, my name is Heidi Jenkins. I have a rising 7th grader, and I'm very, very nervous, just like last week. One of the questions I had was about Mr. Whitehead and Mr. Hull and the transition, and I'm glad you addressed that, and I was just wondering if perhaps could be answered what the timeline is for interim. I know it's a difficult task to find a new principal, and you can't say a specific time that the perfect person is gonna be there, but if we could kind of get an idea of what interim means, that would be great. The other thing is I would like to implore the board to stop imploring anyone who has any kind of grievance or disagrees with them to just leave. I've been hearing this for almost 4 years. If you don't like it, just leave. A certain board member the last 2 times has implored us again, go start your own school, just leave. This is a great publicly funded school, and I would implore the board to stop imploring people just to leave if we have a disagreement with you. The other thing is, in a letter by the chairwoman, it said that there was a large group of people that celebrated when Mr. Hull resigned. And I want to say, in my family, we did not celebrate this at all. And I don't think that that should be assumed that there was a large celebration. When Mr. Hull tendered his resignation, there was not a celebration at our house. There was a sigh of relief, and I think that was felt from many families. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments that I missed? Ms. Foster.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pearline Foster, and this was the first year my kids have been at Mason. Before coming to Mason, my kids have always been in private school. I understand that there's a lot of emotions going, and a lot of people have a lot of concern. I am not agreeing with any side, but I'm looking at what is right and what is wrong, and what's the most important here. And what is most important here is our children, and the fact that we have a school like this here It's not my vision. It's not the vision of most of the people sitting here, but it's the vision of the folks that's sitting up there. And one of the things I've learned from being in corporate America for many years is that an organization is what it is based on leadership. Do you agree with everything leadership does? No. We all work in organization. We all live in a country. We don't necessarily agree with all the laws, the regulation, and everybody has freedom of speech. I am very shocked and appalled that we have a safe environment for our kids. We have a school that has demonstrated strong academic achievement. I want everybody who has looked at the FSA results to raise your hands. I don't know, after looking at that results, you think the time to attack and try to close our school is what we need to do. I think if we build upon what we have created is what we need to do. We might not always agree with leadership, but I believe in coming aside correctly with leadership and having leadership. If there is an issue, if there is a fault, address their fault and address it correctly and in the right way is what we need to do. We have plastered Mason in the paper, on the news, for the last couple of weeks in a negative light. Do we have a great leadership? Yes, we do. If we did not, the school would not be what it is. I can say that because I've been PTA president of many schools, private schools. I've had my kids in different schools here, in private schools in Collier County. They may not always do what we agree with, but I think what we need to address is what is important for our children. If we remove, I was very distraught when the principal resigned. My kids have been here 1 year and they rave about the principal and the vice principal, even though they've been disciplined. They've been in Mr. Hall's office, they've been in Mr. Whitehead's office. I like that. I like that my kids get appropriate discipline. I like that my kids are being academically challenged. And I am afraid that we're using a few parents out of all these parents to make a voice. And I believe that it's time that we make a stand. And I'm not talking for myself alone. We're other parents that are being very quiet, but we need to make a stand because we don't want our school destroyed. I know my time is up. I apologize. I just had to run over when I heard the meeting was today to say something.
Thank you very much.
I'm late, may I speak?
Yes, of course.
Just a quick note, my name's Robin Mathias. I'm a little late, so I don't know if this stuff has been repeated. Something just came up to me since the last meeting, and I wish I had said it before, but I really wish that if you would be transparent. I mean, it just seems like if you're not doing anything wrong, like, why the amended revised meeting minutes? Why go back and try to fix something that maybe you did something wrong before, maybe you were incorrect about? Why not have a Q&A and answer people's questions openly? Why stonewall document requests? Just, I mean, I'm just saying, yeah, I think that the FSA results are extremely related to how the teachers are teaching. I mean, you're not in the classrooms with these teachers. These teachers are educated at great levels in great institutions. They are getting assistance with workshops through Hillsdale. I don't know if that's mandatory. I can't get a straight answer. I didn't do the research, but I'm just saying, just show us everything that we're asking for if you're not hiding anything. That's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you. All right, the next item up is the legal matters. I actually met with Mr. Coleman on Friday, predicted some things that were going to happen, and asked him to draft and send the board an updated and amend scope of work. So board members, at this time, I know you've had a chance to review it. Are there any questions about his new scope of work? If there are no questions, is there a motion to approve the amended scope of work for Attorney Coleman?
I move to approve the amended scope of work for Attorney Coleman.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of the amended work by Attorney Michael Coleman states so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. All right, Mr. Arnold, the next item up is the ratified mediation. If you could explain that, please.
Correct. So we requested from, so we had a previous mediation request into DOE, which I followed up with last week because it had been a month and they hadn't acted on it yet. In that conversation, the idea of mediation involving this investigation matter was brought up. So I spoke to each one of the board members individually, and I got consensus that we could go ahead and amend that request because there were some time constraints which would take a while to explain. So we went ahead and did that, and DOE expedited and got the request out on the 3rd for mediation. So now that we have discussed that individually, I think the first thing to do is to have the board ratify that request for mediation today.
Board members, is there a motion to approve the ratification for amended mediation?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of the amended mediation, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. Okay, the next item up is, that I added, oh, yeah.
Mr. Arnold, this is David Bolduc. I'd just like to ask one question. So that request to expand the mediation with the district, that was sent last week, correct, to the district?
Yes, it was sent on the 3rd, late in the afternoon.
Okay, and then I believe it was, the Florida Department of Education said, please respond by July 12th. And,
I believe so, yeah.
okay, have we received a response from?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we do need to approve attorney retainers for both the Coleman Law Firm and the Arnold Law Firm. I had a conversation with Mr. Arnold, and the recommended cost for each would be $50,000 each for retainers for them. Board members, are there any questions for Mr. Arnold on this?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the 50,000 retainers for each attorney?
I move to approve the retainer $50,000 for each attorney.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. The authorization of legal action, Mr. Arnold, this is your turn.
Okay, thank you. So there are there's multiple potential remedies, and I don't want to discuss all of them in an open forum. Board members, I'm happy to discuss them with you individually if you'd like to be briefed on what they are. Some of them require the action to come back to the board after a notice is done, but there are some actions that can be done immediately upon a notice of termination, which again, we don't have any idea what that looks like right now. And again, I'm happy to continue to speak with board members in advance. I have two recommendations at this point. First of all, which is to authorize legal action, which will later be ratified by the governing board, if under the advice of counsel or the opinion of counsel, either Mr. Coleman or myself believe that there is a competent court that we can file an action in, that we would do that. The second recommendation would be to go ahead and schedule a meeting now for perhaps noon or so on Thursday, if the worst happens and some action is taken by the school board on Thursday morning, that immediately thereafter, Thursday afternoon, the board can vote to do anything. But in the interim, if there's anything over the next few days that we believe would need to be taken, that after consultation with the board members, and there's a consensus among the board members to act, that we're authorized to act, and then we can later come back and ratify it at a board meeting.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Arnold?
No.
Is there a motion to, Sean, what's the best motion at this point? I just want to be clear on the language.
the motion would be to authorize counsel for the school to file any action that they believe necessary in any competent court between now and the next time that the school board meets, and then the governing board meets, and then when the governing board meets again, it can ratify that action. Now, that would be, that's prospective, and it's something that may occur, and I'm not saying that there actually will, something will happen, but it's giving us authorization to act in need be, in essence, of what would be an emergency situation.
All right, so we just need a board member to just say we agree with your motion. We've never done it this way, so I just want to be clear.
Okay.
Okay, I agree or second the motion as outlined by Mr. Arnold.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor of authorizing council to file any action necessary, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. All right, the next item up is the bank account signer, Mrs. Turner.
So in light of Mr. Hall's resignation, we're going to remove him as signer on all of the Mason bank accounts effective August 11th. And then pending the approval of today's minutes, we'll add Joe Whitehead and David Bolduc to all of the MCA accounts as signers with access online as well. And the minutes would need to reflect the list of account numbers.
Is there a motion to approve Mr. Whitehead and Mr. Bolduc as additional signers to the bank accounts? Is there a second? Yep.
Second.
All those in favor of the new bank account signers, Mr. Whitehead and Mr. Bolduc, say so by saying aye. Aye. This is unanimous. All right, next item, thank you, Mrs. Turner. Next item is the governor letter, which was added today. Is this of Mr. Whitehead or is this?
Yes, yeah, I would like to have Mr.
Oh, real quick, Sean, I don't know if we need you anymore. I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Whitehead. Yesterday, I emailed you a letter that has been publicly published. It was sent by one parent of Mason Classical Academy with additional, I believe, 106 signers that stated that they were, I believe, parents of Mason children, but that has not been verified. And it was sent to Governor Ron DeSantis and CC to the Florida Department of Education Commissioner Richard Corcoran, Florida Department of Education Executive Director Adam Miller, Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody, all of our state reps, the Florida Commission on Ethics, every member of the CCPS School Board, Superintendent Patton, and Provost Chris Van Orman, Director of the Barney Charter School Initiative, and the Charter School General Contact at Hillsdale College. And in it states that they are writing on behalf of concerned parents, and that they ask that, they also attach the Fishbein report, and said that in response to the report, the board is pursuing a course of action that will cause irreparable harm to one of the finest charter schools in Florida and cause significant, irreversible damage to our children. And given your background, Mr. Whitehead, I just wanted you to weigh in on, do you feel that there's, any significant irreversible damage to our children that is going on in Mason Classical Academy?
Well, when you define, as it's outlined, when you start defining damage or harm to children, there's a requirement to contact the DCF, Division of Children and Family Services. So my point number one is, whoever had constructed this letter, if they are claiming that they have some specific knowledge of a specific incident, and when you outline the circumstances of the incident, it meets the criteria for some sort of abusive behavior toward children or irresponsible custodial care of children, or any of the above, there's a responsibility to report that. Now, if anyone who is working in the field of education or any other number of listed fields that has knowledge of that, they're required to report that abuse. The failure to do so results in criminal charges. And I did notice there appears to be a member of the Collier County Public School System who signed this letter. So if they're claiming knowledge of something, that knowledge needs to be explained, what the specifics are, and then it needs to be reported to the appropriate agency. To simply put that into, to answer your question, into a letter like this without explanation is basically making, it's a baseless accusation, it's a baseless allegation. So there's no, it has no merit until something specific can be laid out. And I know there was another question you alluded to also about reference to sunshine law.
Well, it says that the report, that they attached the Fishbane report, and then it says the result of the year-long investigation identified board member misconduct, which included, among other allegations, a sunshine law violation.
Well, point number one, Mr. Arnold very clearly in the last meeting explained that there was actually no violation, and this was an error from Mr. Fishbane to have put this into his report. But secondly, anytime there is an actual appearance of a real sunshine law violation, and I'm very familiar with this, I just want to go on the record, I serve on a board for the city of Naples. I manage with 4 of the trustees. I chair a board that manages a nearly $60 million pension fund. Been doing it for 16 years. That pays all the pensions for the law enforcement officers of the city of Naples that retire. So we work under sunshine law as an appointed board on behalf of the city of Naples. So I'm very, very familiar with all the provisions of sunshine law. Mr. Arnold's explanation that he made last meeting was perfect, and I think explained everything very, very well. In the event there is a violation, a true violation of sunshine law, that needs to go to the Department of Division of Ethics in Tallahassee, which then reviews and turns it over to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So again, if someone has a very specific, that's where it should go, not in an allegation that's just designed, as apparently Mr. Fishbane's report was to throw speculation without substance. So that's, in essence, does that answer your questions about the letter? You have any other board members have questions about the abuse process?
It answers my question, thank you.
I mean, the only other comment I have is that there are a lot of names on that list that aren't MCA parents. I just want to point that out.
Do you think, Mr. Whitehead, it's worthwhile to follow up with the main signer of the letter who did provide their email address to contact them and just confirm how many of these signees or signers are in fact Mason Classical parents? Is the one signer that appears to be the same charter head or supervisor for Collier County Public Schools? Is this in fact the same person that signed this letter?
Well, I think it's worthwhile, I think, is to verify anyone who's making a claim. Also, and then also to check with the signer of the letter with regard to this, the author of the letter, this abuse allegation, because if there's specific knowledge this person has, they need to come forward.
Right, because if they have specific knowledge and they haven't reported it to DCF, then that in fact is a violation of the law.
Depending on your position in relation to the organization or custodial care of children or anything like that, yes, it could be a criminal violation.
Okay. Well, I think it would be beneficial for you to follow up on those matters and report back to the board.
I'll make contact with you off the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we are moving on to board comments. Are there any board comments today?
With all the concern that's been expressed about our affiliation with Hillsdale, and possibly not being affiliated anymore, I did a little bit of research and just took a quick glance at the ratings and success of the other Hillsdale BCSI schools, and I thought it was interesting. When there were four schools that were opened in 2014, Mason Classical Academy being one of them, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about ratings or rankings, but just to take one common thread, the GreatSchools.org rating but Mason Classical Academy is a 10 out of 10. We've been an A-rated school since the first year. I think we all know that. The other schools that opened the same year that we did, there is one school in Leander, Texas that is rated a 7 out of 10. There's another school in Las Vegas that's rated a 5 out of 10. We went to training with the board members of Atlanta Classical Academy, a school that also opened the same year we did. I remember meeting them at the training. There was an enormous board. They had a huge board. I think it's noteworthy that they came out of the gate with a D rating the first year. The second year they also had a D rating. They reduced their board to 5 members, and they brought that up to a C. Like the last 2 years they've had a C rating, glad for them to have improved. So, you know, I think people are assuming somehow that having Hillsdale, and having a Hillsdale affiliation means, you know, automatically that they'll have beautiful success in leadership in their schools, but it depends on what happens in the individual school. You know, we were told in training early on that that one of the key indicators to success of a school was having a principal around for hopefully 7 years, the first 7 years, that was a strong indicator of a school's success. That's one of the reasons we've been so grateful for the continuity in our leadership in our school. But MCA has learned the hard way that individuals with political aspirations or deep pockets can be detrimental to maintaining mission focus. That focus is what translates into a trusted and trusting faculty, able to teach effectively without fear that their administration will throw them to the wolves of a few disgruntled parents demanding their self-interest. That focus is what translates to a true classical education for our children. We have observed over the years that even other Hillsdale schools have fallen into customer service traps like being convinced to have silly sock day and other distractions. Our careful leadership is the only thing separating our school from the sea of average out there, Hillsdale schools included. I looked on down the list. Pineapple Cove, 8 out of 10. Savannah Classical, 3 out of 10 rating. Estancia Valley Classical Academy, 8 out of 10. Livingston Classical started out as a classical academy. Now they're unrated because they have become a cyber academy. That's a Hillsdale BCSI school. It's a cyber academy now. St. John's Classical Academy, 4 out of 10. They're a failing school. There are other reasons that Mason Classical Academy is being attacked. If we don't realize that Mason Classical Academy, this is one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize. Mason Classical Academy, the school, accepts tax dollars to operate. Mason Classical Academy Incorporated is a privately held nonprofit entity. This is a private corporation. That is why neither the CCPS nor Hillsdale College have the authority to force anyone off of Mason's board of directors or appoint anyone to Mason's board of directors. They have stated that themselves. That's why they're having to play dirty pool to try to get the leadership changed so that they can have their way. There are a lot of other things involved here. And children don't seem to be at the front of this conversation for a lot of these people. The only fraudulent activity that's taken place in the past year is on the part of the district council Fishbane and the individuals that he has manipulated, taken advantage of, or lied to, using his position of power to attempt a hostile takeover of the #1 school in the county.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Miller, for your comments. At the first board meeting, which we held after the Fishbane report was released, as part of my board comments, I said I was really shocked and surprised at what I felt was the level of coordination between a number of people or groups, and how I felt people like Erica Donalds, who was a sitting school board member back in last October, joined her husband, Representative Byron Donalds, to go to the Naples Daily News, and somehow the Naples Daily News got the full unredacted complaint from Mr. Baird from the district essentially quoted every chapter and verse in that complaint as fact, and that in the Naples Daily News article, it said that Erica and Byron Donalds corroborated all of the allegations in the complaint. And then, come to find out later in the year, when Hillsdale was coming to meet with Board Chair Lichter, and when Board Chair Lichter invited them to come and visit the school, they said, no, we're going to meet some donors. And then when the Board Chair did a public records request, found out that they were decided not to visit Mason Classical Academy, one of their highest performing schools, but instead go visit with Collier County Public Schools and John Fishbane, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Fishbane report is released, and it's glowing in its, I guess, praise of Hillsdale and how they created the curriculum that's made it so Mason so successful. In fact, the Naples Daily News continues to, I guess, perpetrate that claim, which is, I think when you look at the original 2012 charter application submitted to Collier County Public Schools, you can do a word search, and the word Hillsdale comes up 36 times in 210 pages. 24 of those times they are innocuous, where there are email addresses or addresses or things of that nature. And in fact, the word Hillsdale does not even appear in the entire section talking about curriculum. So when the Naples Daily News publishes, just this last June 30th, an editorial, and said Hillsdale College, comma, which created the template MCA follows, and then went on to quote Mr. Fishbane from his report, in which it said, quote, the instructional model and curriculum provided by Hillsdale College to Mason is a sound one. Well, that's 100% inaccurate. That is not the case whatsoever. Again, I just mentioned, you can scroll through the you can get a hold of the 2012 charter application. They're not, Hillsdale's not even mentioned in the curriculum section. And in fact, if you look at the agreements that are signed, two agreements. One is the Mason's original charter school contract with Collier County Public Schools. It was signed on August 30th, 2013. Then you have the agreement with Hillsdale College and with Mason Classical Academy, and again, we'll state the purpose of the agreement. It's right here. Number one, statement of purposes. The purpose of this agreement is to set forth the terms and conditions by which Hillsdale College will provide assistance to MCA Corporation to enable MCA Corporation to launch a charter school. And the date of that is November 15th, 2013, 2.5 months after John Fishbane and Camille Patton signed the original charter school contract with Mason Classical Academy. And another myth that goes on, and I think is constantly perpetrated by especially the Naples Daily News, is they keep on repeating the fact that, in fact, in this last editorial back in June 30th, they state State Rep Byron Donalds and his wife, former Collier County School Board member Erica Donalds, charter school champions and key allies of Kelly Lichter during the founding of MCA. Again, 100% inaccurate. Go get a PDF of the 2012 original charter application of Collier County Public Schools. I did 3 word searches. I did the word search for Erica, 0 returns. I did the word search for Byron, 0 returns. I did a word search for Donalds, 0 returns. Their name does not appear whatsoever in the original charter school application. But where it does appear is Erica Donalds formed another classical academy where she sits on the board, another Hillsdale affiliated academy called Treasure Coast Classical Academy. And then she also formed another corporation called the Optima Foundation, which is a charter school advice and management company. And it says the main goal of it is to launch and manage Hillsdale affiliated charter schools throughout the state of Florida. And in their original application to their county, which was over on the East Coast, it says that types of support that Optima will provide to Treasure Coast Classical Academy may include low-interest loans, grant attainment assistance, and other nature. And then it goes on to say, additional funding relationships may be explored once a charter has been granted by the authorizer. So Erica Donalds has formed 2 corporations with Hillsdale affiliated. One is the charter school, and then the other one is to provide loans to that charter school. So they're going to use taxpayer dollars to pay off those loans that they provide to the Hillsdale affiliated charter schools. So it seems to me it's this corporation to manage Hillsdale affiliated charter schools is definitely in it to make money. And I also find it very interesting that I had a phone call last night with a woman, local woman. Her name is Diane Van Paris, and because I heard that Erica Donalds was recruiting her to become a member of the new Mason Classical Academy board once we are removed. And so I asked her that question: did that occur? And if so, did it occur, can I state it to the public right now? And she said, yes, by all means, go ahead. So yes, Erica Donalds is actively recruiting other people to join her to form the new Mason Classical Academy board somehow after we are all removed. So I think a number of parties have not been above board dealing with Mason Classical Academy, especially Hillsdale providing these artificial deadlines on when we have to respond to all of the allegations in the one-sided, one-year Fishbane report where it didn't even interview any member here on the board, didn't ask us for any piece of information, quoted old board bylaws, didn't even make reference to current Florida statutes that say board members are perfectly fine to call in electronically or attend in person. So this is just a cabal. That's all I can, that's the only word I can think of. It just seems like this has just been a year-long, over a year-long, highly coordinated, highly funded, people working together to unseat the leadership and the board of this school, because you know what? It gives Collier County Schools, it's done, everything that it's done when the legislature said that they wanted to launch charter schools in Florida. Because the purpose of a charter school is to do something different academically, do something different curriculum-wise from the traditional charter schools. And we do that. It's a classical model, Socratic teaching methods, all methods that have been tried and true for over 2,000 years. And we've read the results. I mean, we're just crushing it compared to the traditional Collier County public schools. In fact, the closest elementary school in a geographic location to Mason Classical Academy is Shadowlawn, down the road here as you head towards downtown Naples. Their third grade reading proficiency is 29% overall. And it goes on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest. 47% of their third graders score a 1. I mean, that should be requiring an investigation, in my mind. What's that principal doing? What's that school doing? What's the board, Collier County, doing? Just saying, yeah, I find this acceptable, this is great. So anyway, I just feel there's just been this whole coordinated effort to drag Mason's name through the mud with arbitrary deadlines on how to respond to a one-sided, highly biased investigation. And I hope everyone understands that we know exactly what's going on as a board, and that's why we're taking the appropriate steps to make sure that all the truth comes out.
Thank you for your comments, both board members. First, I just want to say that, just for the record, there are no alleged defaults of our charter contract that are sufficient grounds to terminate. Period. End of story. This shouldn't even be on on CCPS's agenda on Thursday. But again, we've actually called this playbook for months. Every step of the way, we called exactly what they were going to do, and they've done it. They're very transparent as far as the corruption goes. At first, when I returned from our family vacation from Grand Cayman in early June, came to this board meeting, and I was, pretty shocked and hadn't even had a chance to digest the Fishbane report. What really surprised me was the number of parents that some are sitting here now that jumped all over that and were accusing us of breaking laws and treating us like criminals. And this has continued for the last month. And then I get a lot of supportive emails, phone calls, text messages, people who love this school, don't want to see it change, they're happy with the way things are, but they're silent, they're quiet. And I'm asking you today to stop being silent and quiet, because there is a group out there, and as Mr. Bolduc outlined, is a very coordinated, active group that is trying to damage and take down this school. So I ask that you not be silent in your support of this school. And for those of you who have continued to bash the school and trash the leadership, I have to say, why are you continuing to stay here? I know you say you don't want to hear people say that, but I have to ask, why? Why are you still here if it's so terrible? There are so many hundreds of families that love this school, and you are destroying it for those children. If the kids are that important, and some of you are already making plans to go to other schools, but yet you're still participating in this. I don't understand. So I ask that you don't be silent any longer, because we have built something really incredible here. And it's a team effort. It's been from the top down. Every employee that's part of this organization. We've achieved a lot in 5 years, and we're going to continue on. But we are going to take a very strong offensive approach against this corruption. So, and I just want to personally thank all of you who've reached out to me personally. This has been a very difficult time. It's actually shocking to see the behavior from some of the families that are in this very own school. And some are friends with my children. Some of their children are friends with my kids. It's sad. And I hope it stops. I'm asking today that it stops. And if you're still going to continue that, there are other schools. This is not your zone school. It's a choice. It's a privilege. So much has gone into making the school what it is today. And I ask that you please find something else that may fit you better, because there are hundreds of families and teachers and employees that love what Mason stands for. And we are going to continue on our mission, and I'm not going to be bullied by some comments of stepping down and resigning that is not part of any charter, statute, or termination. And especially based on a one-sided investigation by Mr. Fishbane. And I think it's becoming very clear, because I just want to, for the record, I threatened a bar complaint against him about a year ago, and he's obviously has a personal vendetta. And this is really unfortunate, because who is suffering? It's our families and our kids who come to this school. So again, I make a plea to those of you who are silent to not be silent any longer. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.